This is Mutabaruka. We want to present to you a wholesome kind of level of consciousness right now. So subscribe and tell your friend them. This is Mutabaruka.
In our country, we will have our morals. We will protect our children. And we are making this law. We are making this law for ourselves. We are making this law for our children. We are making this law for the children of our children. This country will stand firm. And once it passed, I can tell you, Madam Speaker, we are going to reinforce the law enforcement officers to make sure that homosexuals have no space in Uganda.
The bill is one of the most extreme anti-LGBTQI+ laws in the world. If the AHA is signed into law and enacted, it would impinge upon universal human rights, jeopardize progress in the fight against HIV/AIDS, deter tourism, and invest in Uganda and damage Uganda's international reputation.
Parliament passing it, it still has some process to go here. We're certainly watching this real closely, and we would have to take a look at whether or not there might be repercussions that we would have to take, perhaps in an economic way, should this law actually get passed and enacted. That would be really unfortunate because so much of the economic assistance that we provide Uganda is health assistance, and largely through PEPFAR. You can see a world in which, a law like this, should it be enacted, would not only, as Karine rightly said, just be devastating to a whole community of people inside Uganda, but if it were to have any kind of an effect on our economic assistance, that would only make that worse. So we'll have to take a look.
I want to begin by taking a moment to condemn in the absolute strongest terms the despicable law put forward by the Ugandan government discriminating against the 2S LGBTQI+ community. This is something that Canada totally and completely stands against. We will be looking at how we can support the community in Uganda as we continue to stand for 2S LGBTQI+ rights in Canada and around the world. And we call upon all leaders, including all leaders around the world, but particularly Commonwealth leaders, to come out and clearly condemn this despicable piece of legislation.
Nobody concentrates so much on homosexuals, and nobody is hunting them. But because they come and want to force us to say homosexuality, oh yeah, that's how you get now a backlash. They are the ones who are provoking all this. Our attitude on homosexuality is that these are deviants. They are deviants from the normal. There is the normal, there is the deviation from the normal. But you don't kill. The deviation from normal is also part of nature. You can get somebody born with 6 fingers instead of 5. You can't kill him. But then you don't go around and say, oh, this one, the deviation is the normal. It is the provocation by the Western countries.
Every person without God is in a dire mental condition. Doesn't mean their rational faculties are not functioning, but it does mean that they are in the kingdom of darkness, right? It does mean that they are under the power of the prince of the power of the air, the spirit that now works in the children of disobedience. So we have to understand that anyone who is not a believer is operating in some sense with a demonic influence. It may be external, coming at them through the culture, but there's something in them, in their corruption, in their fallenness, in their natural perversion that deceives them. The heart is desperately wicked, deceitful and desperately wicked. Who can know it?
What is your message to Western human rights groups, to President Obama,
Respect,
to lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender people?
Respect African societies and their values. If you don't agree, you just keep quiet. Let's manage our society the way we see. If we are wrong, we shall find out by ourselves. Just the way we don't interfere with yours.
So are there differences between ethnicity and so-called sexual orientation? Absolutely there are. ethnicity is innate and unchangeable. So-called sexual orientation is not innate, and it is changeable. We know this. 1 Corinthians chapter 6 is 2,000-year-old evidence that people stop being gay. So we know that it's neither innate nor is it unchangeable. So there are huge differences between the two. However, if all you're doing is using the language of the culture and the idea of people as constituencies, then you end up right where we are, and it's hard to stop that train. I think there are some things that we accepted philosophically in the civil rights movement that were not based in biblical truth. And those things are being applied in the gay rights movement the exact same way. And now we're calling them out. For example, the idea of constituentizing people, to create a word, seeing people as constituencies and seeing rights as rights for constituencies of people. And this continued division of ourselves based on our constituencies and our so-called communities, this community, that community, the other community, and rights being sort of divvied up by community. That's problematic. I think what we're seeing now is the homosexual community latching on to some of those very concepts. These concepts, by the way, which are rooted and grounded in cultural Marxism. This was the goal of Gramscian Marxism. Divide people up into constituencies. And then the way you gain power is by making promises to and representing particular constituencies. Now, you never give them what you promise, but by creating this idea of constituencies and being the one who is the representative of the constituencies, you gain power, and you keep your power to the degree that things don't get better for your constituency. So now what happens is, even when gains are made, you have to downplay those and go looking for other things that are problems, because again, that's the way you keep your power. The homosexual community has latched onto that, has identified themselves as a constituency who is deserving of our attention and our pity. They did this intentionally using the AIDS crisis. And the direct result is they now have achieved a one-to-one correlation that we're finding it very hard to move away from.
Todos hijos de Dios. Y Dios nos quiere como estamos y con la fuerza que luchamos cada uno por nuestra dignidad. Ser homosexual no es un delito, no es un delito. Sí, pero es pecado. Bueno, primero, distingamos pecado por delito. Pero también es pecado la falta de caridad con el prójimo. ¿Y vos cómo andás? La condena de la homosexualidad viene de lejos. Hoy día, por ejemplo, creo que los países que tienen condena legal son más de 50. No la nombran directamente, pero dicen aquellos que tienen actitudes antinaturales, o sea, buscan decirlo de manera escondida. Creo que es injusto.
The informative information presented in this video is motivational and is positively aimed at inspiring, educating and entertaining the viewers with the cutting edge of critical reasoning. If you enjoy the contents on the Black Radar YouTube channel, please consider subscribing to show your support.